Hi, I'm Skye.
And I'm Dina.
And we're the Almost Doctors. And this is an OEB Science Cafe short. And today we're going to be talking about super colonies.
Super colonies.
Super colonies! And so I'm going to be telling you today about the Argentine ant.
The Argentine ant.
It's not a very impressive ant. It's about a 2mm ant. It's a brown ant. Right, I have to convert all this, right? It's about that big. So it's not a very big ant. But what it does is it creates these really cool things called super colonies.
All right, what's a super colony?
Thank you for asking what a super colony is. So super colonies are these giant superstructures where you actually have, instead of a single queen with a bunch of workers, you have multiple queens with workers that can actually move between these queens with each other. And
so they're working together.
So they're working together to form these giant super colonies. And we thought we knew how big a super colony could be.
Right, how big?
So back in the 90s, we found this super colony that was 6,000 kilometers long. And for those of us in the US, that's about 3,700 miles.
Wow.
Which is essentially the distance from LA to Maine.
That's insane.
Right, and so we thought, hey, look, there's this giant super colony. We have these billions of workers within this colony. You have millions of queens. And all these ants can recognize each other.
Right.
And so we thought, great, this is huge. And then our minds got blown.
Yet again.
Yet again! So these ants are invasive and they've moved around the world. And so they're in Japan and they're in Australia and they're in America. And so researchers at the University of Tokyo were interested in kind of the relatedness of these different colonies. And what they discovered was really weird in that if you took an ant from a colony in California and you took an ant from a colony in Tokyo and you put them together in a jar, you would predict that these ants would
destroy
each other, right? Because that's what ants do. But in fact, what they did is they just sat there and they stroked each other and they said hi to each other and they just kind of hung out with each other and they were totally comfortable. And it was like, this is really weird.
What's going on?
What's going on? So then they started to take ants from other areas. They took ants from Japan, they took them from California, they took them from Europe, and they put them together and they did the exact same thing. And it turns out that these colonies are actually part of a mega colony.
Even bigger than a super colony.
Even bigger than a super colony that spans a globe. And we know that this is part of this one colony, and not just that Argentine ants are really nice guys and they're always nice to each other and very friendly. Because if you were to take an Argentine ant from a smaller super colony and put it with one of these mega colonies, like total destruction, total destruction. And this is really cool. It's really cool, but it's also like really scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah. And it's a little scary because these are invasive ants.
Right.
And they're really destructive ants. So if they have these giant super mega colonies that kind of come into areas and wipe out local ant populations, and they can wipe out pollinators in citrus groves, and they can even like scare off lizards and all kinds of other crazy things.
Bad ants.
They're jerk ants. These are super jerk ants, yeah. And so these ants are really invasive, and we've discovered this mega colony, so it's really hard to get rid of them because you get rid of one colony, one nest, one queen.
And you haven't done anything.
You haven't done anything! It's very frustrating.
Right.
And it's our fault.
It's our fault.
Yes, it's our fault. So we are actually the ones who are ferrying these ants back and forth, right? So normally how evolution works is when two things are separate, they begin to have this genetic drift, and so they become genetically different from each other. They smell different. Ants communicate via smell. And so when those ants then, even if they're from the same species, if they touch each other, they go, you're not my buddy.
Get out of here.
Right. But these ants, because we've been passing them back and forth, Monksy, yes, I know. We've been passing them back and forth. They still recognize each other, shake hands, and say, hey, we're the ants. Yes. And so we are actually responsible for the global ant invasion. Yes.
Ah.
I know. And so with that in mind, I am Skye.
And I'm Dina.
And we would like to welcome you to the new ant order. Go forth and do science.